What was up with Kofi Kingston and those new kicks? Kevin Owens has his own lawyer, and it's not from the law offices of Duty, Cheat Them, and How. And for those Three Stooges fans out there, they'll know that reference. But anyway, guys and gals, we're going to talk about the Smackdown review right here on WGS-TV. Hey, YouTube, are you ready for your hot tag? Because if you are, it's time to work.
This is Chris Hero, and you're watching WGS-TV.
Greetings, YouTube. You have worked your way into another episode of WGS-TV right here on YouTube.com/WrestleGamer. I am the Wrestle Gamer, WWE Lucha. Today is December 11th, 2015, and what we're going to be doing today, guys, on this video, in particular, we're going to be talking about SmackDown, and joining me for this review, guys and gals, he is the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio himself, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. And just a side note, the whole Dewey, Cheatham, and How, I didn't know it was from the Three Stooges. The first time I heard that one was from Leisure Suit Larry and the Land of the Lounge Lizards. For those of you who don't know what that game is, well, probably before your time.
Yeah, and honestly, I do have that on Steam, by the way. But anyway, guys, let's fire up that SmackDown review. As we look at the opening of SmackDown this week, guys and gals, it's a one-on-one match. Roman Reigns taking on Alberto Del Rio, hashtag Roman versus Alberto. But of course, with the League of Nations and then, of course, Roman Reigns' team being out there at the exact same time, it was almost predictable that there wasn't going to be a clean finish into this match and that a fight was going to erupt.
I think the reason why they had to do that is because they didn't want to make Reigns look like the loser, and then they didn't want to make Alberto Del Rio look like the loser. It's just, unfortunately, that's how go-home shows have been going. They don't want to have a definitive loser or winner in certain situations.
Well, also, to think about it, it was also to set up the main event for SmackDown, which, again kind of figured it was going to happen. It was going to turn into an 8-man tag, and that's exactly what happened. But what happened in that match, well, we'll talk about it when we get to that in this point in the review. Dolph Ziggler and Tyler Breeze again. Dolph Ziggler beats him with the super kick again. Rick, are they just getting monotonous now? I mean, whoever's in WWE Creative, honestly, in my opinion, Rick, needs to be canned.
Well, you know what? If you're referring to the creative, you know who the creative is, and that is the Road Dogg Jesse James, who's writing most of the creative. And the funny thing is I just posted a report over here on Hardcore Wrestling Radio in our chat room, HWR chat room, and that's in the group section, folks. Apparently, he was truly defending it, back and forth. And he said, for those people who don't like SmackDown, go watch Lucha Underground or go watch Ring of Honor.
Dude, that's a kind of harsh reaction to that one right there. But again, I don't understand, and it's something we said time in and time out, especially when it pertains to what they're doing right now with Dolph Ziggler. I mean, they're having him use the super kick as a finisher instead of the zigzag, and again, I don't think he should be made into the next Heartbreak Kid, Rick. It's not going to work.
I agree with you, but I think they're trying to slowly drift away from that. If you looked at his gear last night, he kind of had more like a Harley Davidson Harley Rider. So I think what they're trying to do is test him with certain gimmicks and see what's working and see what's not working. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we're going to see a new chapter in Ziggler's life. Whether he's going to be successful or not remains to be seen. As far as the Breeze-Ziggler matches are going, you and I know all about rubber band matches, and I'm guessing, considering there's no official kickoff match for this Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them one more time.
Yeah, if they don't put Rusev and Ryback on the kickoff show. I haven't heard any word about that. I know they're having a match at TLC, but I haven't heard if it's going to be main card or kickoff. But anyway, how about Kofi Kingston and them unique shoes, Rick? I mean, he's probably going to have the most unique wrestling boots I have ever seen, ever.
You know as well as I do, they did that mostly to up their merchandise. And when I saw that, I'm like, really? Not to mention when they did the whole Adele Hello spoof, which I thought was hilarious. First they had what I call the strap-on to their head, And now they have the whole light up sneakers that I used to have when I was a kid.
Weren't those popular in the 90s?
They were in the 90s, but I think they were also like in the early 80s as well. They had a few of them, and it kind of phased out, and they re-brought them back in. So, because I remember also getting them for my son, but I also wore them once as a kid too. Yeah,
but again, New Day, even though they're supposed to be heel, you just can't hate that faction. I mean, they're taking their gimmick and they're owning it, and they're making it fun to watch, to be honest. I mean, you love, it's basically a gimmick that you love to hate, and that's exactly what they're doing, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you that point. Over the past couple of months, they've kind of taken their career to the next level, and they've been more of the comic relief. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's not sure, but I have to give them credit. They are truly embracing this gimmick and this whole team. And that's something that's really not seen a lot in the WWE these days.
They would go on to take on the Lucha Dragons, and it would boil down to Kalisto hitting the Salito del Sol, the SDS, on Xavier Woods to pick up the win for the Dragons. So I guess, well, again, it's hard to say, when it pertains to certain matches in a go-home show, especially in a format with TLC, especially in the format of the Triple Threat Tag match for the Tag Team Championship. It's really hard to tell, since one of the challengers went over on the champions on the go-home show, but yet there's still another set of challengers to take into consideration so that's what kind of makes it hard, in my opinion, Rick, to kind of tell which way WWE Creative is going to go with this particular championship match having two sets of challengers.
And I have to agree with you wholeheartedly. And that's why, hopefully tonight, if not first thing tomorrow, we will be having a TLC Picks and Preview show.
Following that, for some odd reason, they decided to have a Intercontinental Championship contract signing. And I gotta say, Rick, the setup was, again, just a little blatantly obvious that, of course, the lawyer guy was supposed to be a distraction, and that's exactly what happened. Kevin Owens came out from behind, but Dean Ambrose would quickly regain control, and then would end the segment with him hitting the Dirty Deeds. Yeah, thank you. Dirty Deeds on the lawyer guy. So, again, I even said it on the WGS-TV Facebook page, Rick. WWE Creative, especially you, Road Dogg Jesse James, you need to do just a little bit better when it comes to setting up angles, because that one I saw coming from a million miles away, Rick.
Well, let's look at any and all contract signings. When's the last time we've not seen? And I think even Dean Ambrose pointed out. So he goes, "Well, you know what? I was hoping here to sign the contract, flip a table, and start a fight." And that's what always happens. I can't remember a time where it was just a handshake and a contract signing, and they walked away. I mean, even back in the day when they did Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, I think it even boiled down to a fight.
Yeah, I think it did. Because I remember at one point, I'm trying to remember exactly, because that was so long ago, and I guess that kind of shows my age on here, guys and gals. But I remember watching that when I was a kid. So again, if you guys want to gauge how old I am, take that into consideration, that I was a kid when that contract signing took place between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. Just think about that for right now. But anyway, following that, guys and gals, we would have Ryback and the Ascension. And this is what pissed me off so much about what's going on with the Ascension on the main roster, especially when it comes to the direction they're going. They were once considered the most dominant tag team in NXT, one of the longest reigning NXT tag team champions. And you move them to the main roster thinking we're going to see big things for these guys. Big things, Rick. And they job to Ryback.
They have had problems getting out of the start gate since they've walked up to the roster. I don't think they've really had a dominant match. And the sad thing is they are not the first development wrestler to make it up to the main roster who's failed miserably. We've seen some great success stories in the form of The Shield, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose, as well as a few others, but it's just not working.
Yeah.
So I think the Ascension.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I think the Ascension has to go back to the drawing board.
I agree, because technically I don't necessarily believe it's their fault that they can't get out the blocks. Like I said, they can only do so much as what WWE Creative allows them to do.
Exactly.
Or dictates them to do, in a sense. And they were almost given, from what I've heard, a little bit of free reign as to their own character development in NXT, in which way they can go, in which way they can develop. And personally, I would have thought that they would have seen what they did in NXT, what made them so successful, what made them so over with the crowd, and try to translate that into the main roster, and yet they have failed miserably, time in and time out, to successfully use the Ascension in good storylines. And it just frustrates me, because they've done so much good in NXT. They were so over, they were so well known in NXT, and then they bring them up to the main roster, and now they're just a freaking joke.
Yeah. Now, if I can cut in on that real quick, I think one of the main issues is because when they were in NXT, they just wore the shirts, they just had the pants, but they didn't have the face paint. They didn't have the LOD/demolition, whichever one you want to use, the gear, and it really was a mistake. They should have left them as their own, and I think they probably would have gone a little bit further than where they are today.
Or maybe take into consideration their original gimmick, their dark, spooky type of tag team that they were. They were like a dark, gothic type of a tag team. But then they of course morphed into what they were doing in NXT before they went and became the rejects of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I think if they would have stuck with that original one with the dark Ascension, in a sense, I think they could have made that work. And maybe even have a feud against the Wyatt family, in a sense, for who should be the dominant force in WWE. And if they would have played that out, that would be something I would like to see. But anyway, let's hurry up and get back on track and get to Becky Lynch and Paige. And one thing I still don't understand, Rick, I even asked it on the Monday Night Raw review, especially when we saw Charlotte come out. Apparently she's supposed to have issues with not only Paige, but also Becky Lynch and herself, because of the past couple of weeks. I'm sorry, I'm a commentator. I should know how to talk. As to what happened between those two, especially with the way Charlotte kind of screwed her out of a match, thanks to her daddy, and then of course attacking Paige last week on Raw, which caused a disqualification and everything like that. But apparently it was just a distraction for Paige. Becky Lynch would end up locking in the disarmer, and then they would both celebrate in a way in the ring. And again, Rick, I got to ask this question: who's face and who's heel?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because it feels to me like they're dangling the proverbial carrot with Charlotte as who's going to be the heel. I don't know what the spin is on this. I'm guessing somewhere at TLC we're going to see someone's true colors come out, whether it be Paige or whether it be Charlotte. It's just one of those things, and I hate to bring up a different subject, which we're probably going to talk a little bit, but Ryback, they were doing the same thing. Ryback was doing a lot of heelish moves, but they just kind of spun off it, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it really is. It definitely is. I think this whole angle they're doing with him and Rusev and Lana, again, like I said, Lana is more than a 10. She's a plus 10, and again, I say it again, Rusev, you are a lucky man to bag a hottie like her. But and I'm just saying that so that way during the review everyone could see a hot picture of Lana. That's the only reason why I said it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing either. But as we go to the 8-man tag match, the League of Nations. By the way, didn't I call it, Rick, when after they first assembled that faction, that in the following weeks they would have a Titantron and they would have an entrance theme? Didn't I call it?
Yes, you did, and I think they're trying to do the same thing with what I'm calling the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire has been, trending a lot. And they haven't officially announced a team, so whether it's just setting up for a TLC match to put this League of Nations over remains to be seen.
But as far as matches goes, this was actually a really good match for being what it was. And Roman Reigns would end up getting the finish. He would end up spearing Rusev to get the win. So think about this now, Rick. Considering the fact that he went over on Monday Night Raw, both in the match and in the final segment, and he went over on the 8-man tag. Is this further evidence in your mind, Rick? Considering the logic that WWE 9 times out of 10 tries to apply to their storylines, is this evidence in your mind that Roman Reigns will not win the title at TLC?
Absolutely. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say it. But, I've been talking about this several times over on the HWR chat room and even on a couple of podcasts, that I think what they're doing is they're grooming Reigns a little bit more because they want to show this long, huge battle that he's had, the ups and the downs. If you look at even just the Money in the Bank situation, that has been the proverbial thorn in his side. He got cashed in from Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. He went to grab the Money in the Bank. He got screwed over there. And then he won the title this past pay-per-view at Survivor Series, only to get brogue kicked by Sheamus. So I feel that if he's going to get the title, it's going to be near or at WrestleMania. So if you ask me, he's going to either have the title or walk away with the title at WrestleMania 32. That's my call.
Overall score on Thursday Night SmackDown this week, I'm going to get a 3 out of 5. I thought it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a 5-star quality show. And SmackDown, would it be more of the wrestling show, with Monday Night Raw being more of the entertainment style show? It's kind of to be expected when you can consider all things considered. And by the way, that also reminds me, I definitely need to pick up my ticket for SmackDown coming to Lafayette, Louisiana, but in January. I haven't done that yet. I hope I can. But reason why I want to wait on that one, Rick, is considering the fact the last time I ended up sitting next to two drunk idiots who apparently thought they knew more about wrestling than yours truly, who's been following it for 27 years. What you
say to them? Just say, yep, you're right, and just ignore them.
Anyway, SmackDown was indeed a decent show. Like I said, 3 out of 5. Best match, I'm going to definitely go to the 8-man tag match. I thought it was a really decent match. Worst match of the night, I have to give it to Ryback versus the Ascension, for reasons I've already explained. From the Ascension to go from being the most dominant NXT tag team ever, the longest reigning NXT tag team champions, and for WWE Creative just to lay a goose egg out there and say, all right, go ahead and go out there and drop to Ryback in a handicap match. To me, utter ridiculousness. Yes, and I said that, Rob Deerdeck. Ridiculousness. So that's my pick. Rick, over to you, your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Thursday Night SmackDown.
I guess I can give it a 3. It wasn't a terrible match. Terrible show. We have seen better. We've seen a lot worse. So I guess it's right there in the middle for me. As far as the worst, the worst segment, I can't. The one thing that really confused me was they were trying to do this whole love story with Lana and Russo. They even had the little sparkly lights around it, the romantic music, only to make him look like a heel. So I'm kind of scratching my head and saying, what? And then, of course, they have. I have to do a dishonorable mention to the New Day with the strap-on and the lightning shoes.
Anyway, guys and gals, what we want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Thursday Night SmackDown this week. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment on Thursday Night SmackDown this week? We definitely want to know what you guys out there have to say. Be sure to put your comments in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Well, if you'd like to listen to any of our podcasts or tribute videos or even shoot videos, head on over to youtube.com/HWR show. But if you want to be a part of the conversation, head on over to our chat room in the group section. It's called HWR Chat Room. Not too hard to figure out.
WGS-TV is on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can ask me questions. Links will be provided in the description box below. And as always, guys and gals, I'll have a couple videos in the annotations at the end of this video for you guys to check out as well. So with that being said, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, I am the Wrestle Gamer. Double B Bully Blue Joe saying we'll see ya at the next Warp Zone. Let's put that here. How extremely hot Lana is, and again, I say it for the second week in a row, Rusev, you are a very, very lucky man. Now, as far as this match goes, I guess Lana can